it was a Game 7 series. Game 7 was great, like tense and tight, and it wasn't great for Edmonton, but like, it felt like an appropriate Game 7, just nervy and physical and all that. But the series otherwise was strange, right? Like Florida winning games, goaltending, whatever, then storming back and sort of dominating 3 games in a row. There weren't a lot of compelling moments until the last game. The Oilers were so close. They're right there, obviously. It's 1 goal in Game 7. Their 2 best players are debilitated with injuries. That's the difference. Like if Leon Draisaitl's healthy, which is, sometimes you are, sometimes you're not, they probably win the Stanley Cup. Like that's the reality. But I guess you applaud them for the good year. You assume, well, they've learned lessons. They're a really good team. Their best players are right in their prime. They'll be back, which is a dangerous thing to assume because you just don't know, even with best intentions and great players, you just don't know if you'll do that. So, disappointing that they weren't able to get it done. I had Ken Holland on set with us before Game 7 NHL Network, and he was in good spirits, but he offered up no indication he was going anywhere. But it just tells you how quickly, like, they don't win on whatever day it was. 2 days later, Ken Holland is like, okay, I'm no longer a part of this organization. And I get he had been transitioned to a different role, and it's Jeff Jackson's team now and everything else. But it's going to start an interesting summer for the Edmonton Oilers because Leon Draisaitl's conversation will dominate Oilers summer. And I thought Leon was completely appropriate. He said exactly what I would have told him to say. Like, I love being in Edmonton. That's number one thing you want to say. I'm coming back no matter what. You say, like, I have to figure out what I want to do. They have to figure out what they want to do. We have to meet in the middle. I bet Edmonton fans would have rather a more bold proclamation, like, I'm not going anywhere. But I wouldn't do that if I was Leon. Even if I fully intended on coming back, I'd be like, no, I got to play it for a new contract a little bit. So that'll be interesting to watch now, figure out what's going to happen with him and then what's going to happen with the rest of the roster.
Mike, I as they send Ken Holland with the Viking funeral down the North Saskatchewan River here. Eric and I were talking earlier with the new person coming in. Is there any rumblings of who that might be? Or I think it has to be a guy that's willing to, empty the quiver of arrows to try to get this thing done. More so as we've seen in Vegas over the last few years, just, shooting for the fences because look, the talking about how the window is, it's still open for the Oilers, obviously, but these guys aren't getting any younger too. Who have you heard anybody, or what type of GM do you think Jeff Jackson is kind of looking for, or maybe he already has the list?
Yeah, well, going to be him or something. Like I wonder if he's going to go the Kyle Dubas route. Like, I'll do both. I don't know. I mean, who's making the decisions? So, like, you could hire me, right? Jeff Jackson's sort of the one really dictating the direction and working collaboratively, but the guy with the final word, I kind of feel like it's Jeff Jackson right now anyways, even when Ken Holland was there this past year. Maybe part of the reason why he went somewhere else is because, they'd already maybe that transition. So I haven't heard anything. I don't know any names, but the name that I'm like, I think it's Jeff Jackson, the guy's in charge. And even if they hired someone else, I don't know if that would change the power dynamic in the front office. I get what you're saying, though. Like, I think Ken Holland, it seemed a little hesitant to sometimes trade the future away, trade the top prospects away. But when you see Broberg playing in the final, you see Holloway, you're like, man, maybe that wasn't such a bad idea to keep some of these guys around to fill out their roster. But I don't know if it matters. I think my impression is that Jeff Jackson sort of is the guy in charge anyways.
All I heard there was you were throwing your hat in the ring, so I hope you enjoy Edmonton.
Well, Mike, keeping on this example, Mike, your phone rings later today, and it's 2J saying, hello, Mike, would you like the job? And in a hypothetical world, you say, oh, that sounds great, I'll take it. What would then be GM Mike Johnson's number one bit of business? Because I do feel we're talking Leon and all these things, but I did think, too, that this run, albeit not ending with a cup lifting, was a great PR campaign for this club around the league, not just to players on this team like a Connor Brown, who mentioned, kind of had no idea, maybe a bit of an idea, but until he saw this city come alive, now this is great, I want to be here. But to potential UFAs around the league, even tonight as we head into a draft with young players coming into the league and saying, wow, if I go there and make history, this is the place to be. So whoever comes in, whether it's you or somebody else, Mike, to take this job, you got to think that with Ken Holland left and what's kind of here and the status of the team as it stands roster-wise, this is a pretty good situation you're walking into in order of trying to get players to come here or vice versa. This isn't just the winter landscape as we've been told in certain years, free agents don't want to come up here and all this stuff. This is now the place to be.
The success is amazing. Like, honestly, and I'm not equating Edmonton to Mars, but like, you could put me on the moon. If my team is good and I have a chance to win, I will enjoy the experience there. That's the reality. Now, there are places like maybe Anaheim, I could be in a bad team and still enjoy the experience there, and that might be different than Winnipeg or Edmonton or Toronto or whatever. But I think the fact that they have Connor and Leon around. So obviously, order number one is figuring out what's going on with Leon Draisaitl. Like, that is priority number one. One, you need to know what that money looks like. He's going to be the highest paid player in the league. He's going to pass Austin Matthews. He has an easy case to make that I deserve to be paid a little bit more than Austin Matthews. It's easy to make. So that's the kind of first piece you need to fall into place, and then you have to round out the rest of the roster. The question becomes, is the best way to go about it Connor Brown's, Adam Henrique's on 1- and 2-year deals, or do you want Zach Hyman's on 7-year deals? And like, trying to find that sweet spot for the right amount of term and hitting it on the right player. Obviously, with Zach, it was a brilliant decision to sign him to a long-term deal. I think, generally speaking, on those parts at the periphery of your roster, which are so important, we learned Janmark, Brown, Henrique, that was a massive part of this team. You want to maintain flexibility if you can on players like that. So that's when I get the job in a couple of weeks, that's the conversation that I will have. Like, we need Leon, we get the core pieces established, and then I sell it. Listen, even if you're not sure you want to, what's going to happen with like a 6-year contract for the next 2 years, we're going to be right there with the best teams in the league. And you saw here, push play. There's the Moss split. There's downtown. There's Shania Twain. This is what you get. You want to play for the max to take care of their players and on players and have the best, 2 of the top, 7 players in the world and have a chance to win. You got that right here. So come for a year, come for 2 years and have a chance to do that. And you'll love your hockey experience. You'll love your living experience and you have a chance to win. Like, that's the pitch, but it starts with Leon and then probably Evan Bouchard, who, he finished 5th?
Yeah.
Trophy voting last night. And I'm like, that ticket has not gotten any cheaper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that he's not pushing 10. He's north of 8. Even as a non-perfect player, he's pushing north of 8. So you start with those big guys, then you work through the rest.
TSN's Mike Johnson with us. I guess, Mike, I'd ask you too, and they don't call you Mystic Mike for no reason, but what would a Leon deal look like here in terms of maybe term in that? Or do you see this thing going long? Maybe it's like more of a condensed timeline, but how would you see the Draisaitl going down today from kind of what we know and what we've seen?
There's like 3 options, right? The most obvious one, I ran the numbers the other day, percentage of the cap, put him slightly out of Austin Matthews. He basically makes $14 million on an 8-year contract.
Nope.
Oh.
Lost Mike for a second. He'll reconnect, but that's okay. But there are options there with him. It's not just kind of
Listen.
Oh, here he is. He's back.
It wouldn't be my hit at the cottage unless I drop out for 10 seconds. That'll work. I have like so bang on money that I drop every time. But anyway, so on an 8-year deal, Leon's like at 14. Right? There's 2 other options. Like, he can go like 1-year extension sort of thing to match up with Connor. And then just sort of, if they have that, whatever, they want to go together. Again, that would be slightly less, $13 million. If you want to do a 1-year extension. And then the other option is the NBA option. Austin Matthews is from the school of this. Nathan McKee, like, you go like 4 years, and then you get one more crack at it when you're like 31. go your 8-year deal. And if he does that, it's same thing. It'd be 13.5 per year, whatever that ends up being, $54 million. Those are kind of the three ranges. But if you're Edmonton, you're like, you want 8. Like, you want this guy from the franchise. No, he's not going on anywhere. And the conversation with Connor coming up saying, we know what we have together. Let's keep it together.
Mike, since you're out there, I know you're at the cottage, but probably still hearing rumblings. Just the draft tonight, first round. Do you see any sparks flying? Is there talk about Mitch Marner or anything? Can you give us any scoops of maybe some fireworks that could or possibly happen, or is it just going to be par for the course and roll right through with the usual suspects in the first round?
Yeah, I'm sort of disappointed, Gage. I don't think Mitch Marner is going anywhere unless something changes drastically. From what I understand, not going anywhere anytime soon. Not in the next week or whatever before free agency. I think they're going to explore what an extension looks like, kind of see what their free agency looks like. I know people in Toronto might be rolling their eyes like, hang on, we're bringing him back again. New coach is not quite the same group. But no, I don't think a blockbuster like that. The one guy I'm watching is I wonder if Patrick Laine for a pick. If you're Columbus, you are resetting everything. New GM, new coach. It's all sort of starting not from scratch, but you're going down to the studs. So could Laine be had for a 5th pick, a 7th pick of Montreal? I wonder if there's something with him, as a high-profile player that gets dealt. But I don't think you'll see shuffling. I'll slide down from 11 to 15, and I'll pick up an extra 3rd-round pick, that kind of stuff, because the draft really is congested after the top 5. You're not exactly sure. The guy you might legitimately like, not just say on TV, I can't believe he was there, like everyone did. But you actually wanted that guy. He might be. You can get him at 17, get him at 10. Like, it just depends on what your list looks like. So we'll see that kind of stuff, but I don't know if we're going to see major fireworks with current players.
And just quickly, Mike, back to the Oilers for one sec, taking a look at those UFAs this season, and I know a lot of people focusing hard on that third line. Can't have them all, but in terms of UFAs and players that you'd maybe like to see back in this fold, and the Janmarks, the Browns, that type of thing, how many of these set to hit the market UFAs the Oilers currently have? How many of them do you see coming back? Are there any surprises you might see a player that maybe fans expect to be back in the fold that may not, that may have priced himself out? Where do you see kind of the Oilers taking their free agency idea into the summer here past Canada Day?
Well, I think what they learned, if anything, was how important a third line is. Like, it felt like it took 100 games this year, literally 100 games for them to get a third line. Like, oh, that's what it looks like, right? Defensively responsible, can provide some offense, play, bring energy, trust that we can start them to start a game, to start a period, all that stuff that they did. But I was watching the final, and with every shift, I kept going, Matthias Janmark can't come back. Like, he's pricing himself out of Edmonton because he played so well. Like that, and we're like, that guy's going to get a 4-year deal for 0.75 a year, something like that. And that's the one you can't give guys like that as much as I want him to get that deal. Again, when I run the team, I want to keep my bottom 6 guys on very short-term deals, not because I don't like them. You overpay on 4 years. You need that flexibility baked in. So I think probably Janmark. Because I think you'll have other better options. I think Henrique would be a good option, but again, he's probably going to make too much money. He scored 20 goals, whatever, is 48 points this year. That's not a $1 million, $1.5 million player. That's a $4.5 million player. Even on a short-term deal, you can't do that. Connor Brown would be maybe one of the guys that probably would be open to coming back. He finally hit his stride. He's got the relationships there with Jeff Jackson and everything else. So that might be something that is interesting to them. Vinny Desharnais, he might be a guy that would be interested in coming back. I don't know, how much money will be out there for him. So he might be a guy that's a good fit. They understand him. He understands the market. And then you chip away like that. But what you got to try to find, the challenge for every team. I need Janmark, or he plays like Janmark. I need Henrique. I need a guy who's going to make $1.5 million. Can play that way, and then I put together a $5 million third line that gives me something like what we saw from those guys.
Mike, we can discuss this further in the summer because my neighbor's house is on sale, and when you eventually move out here, we can meet on the back porches together. But you're talking about these bottom six. You know, this money is getting tricky. Jack Campbell. Which route do you think the Edmonton Oilers are they buying him out, or is this kind of a lengthy process of trying to find the GM and then trying to find a place to move Jack Campbell to free up that? I mean, in the minors, I believe it's just over a little over $3 million in cap space, but that could be quite valuable again for this third line of guys to keep them at Edmonton.
Yeah, so I have to check Jack's contract, the signing bonuses and stuff. But I think my inclination is probably you buy him out, buy him out now, and it's a big ticket to. Right? He's got 3 more years in his deal. You're going to eat 6 years of buyout money, and I hate on my team again, Gager. I hate dead money. I want to do everything in my power. I want no part of. And I mean, even $3 million allocated, I don't get. I don't want to do that, but I don't think there's any other options for Jack. I don't think you're not going to find a trade partner unless you're taking back an equally troublesome contract. So you're just shuffling deck chairs. I don't know if the rehabilitation angle is like Stuart Skinner's your guy. Do you want Jack Campbell back as the backup? I don't know if that even makes sense anymore when Stuart Skinner has done what he's done. So I think, unless you scour the league and find some other option, I think buying him out is probably the option. And then you go and get whoever, whether it's Pickard or Lankinen, or you go find a backup that you can pay $1 million to. That would be good to help Stuart Skinner. And all of a sudden you have a really nice tandem in net that you're paying whatever, $4 million, $5 million. And that's good value in net, which is what we're all about. Gager, you're my assistant GM now. We need value. We need value on our edges. And that's why we have smart people like you to find. And the Oilers can find that in their backup, whoever it ends up being. But I think you probably got to buy him out.
I love where you're at, buddy.
Yeah, and update that LinkedIn, Mike, and maybe we'll be talking GM Mike Johnson next season or something. I want to see you running a team now. I think it's very encouraging. But we appreciate your time as always, man. Enjoy the cottage and get back to the living. Probably talk next week, wrap all the things up, free agency and the draft and all that. But thanks for your time again. Enjoy the weekend. Happy Canada Day.